Hello and welcome to the Change Gang podcast with me, your host, Laura Ordile. I'm here to help you hold on to your sanity and your soul as you move through big change. I'm here to guide you from frustration to flow in your life, bridging the practical and the woo, just for you. Let's go. All right. Welcome to the week, Change Gang. I hope it's going wonderfully for you. And I have the amazing Charlotte Carter with me today to have a chat. And I'm super excited. And I know that you can't see this on your end, but you have this amazing band of medals behind. Pretty cool. I would love to have that. That's just such a visual, fun reminder of all the things that are wonderful for you. Do you keep that there as a good reminder for yourself?
Yeah, it's lovely to be on here and so nice to connect with you. Yeah, so I have my medals behind me for myself and for the audience to show that anything's possible.
I love that. And yes, welcome very much. Sorry, that just struck me as that's so wonderful that you have that there. I love that. I think that we all need reminders of the awesome things that we do in life. And that's a wonderful way to do it. I'm very visual, so that's fun for me. But I'm so glad that you get to be here today. We're going to talk a little bit about energetic alignment. And so you have this amazing, well-rounded way of working with people. It's kind of encompasses everything. And so we're just picking out one little tiny piece today and talking about that. But thank you for that. Thank you for coming in and having that conversation. So I'd love to know if you've always kind of been on that train of understanding energy, having it apply in your life. It always applies in life, but did it take you a little while to understand that and to kind of bring that into focus?
What a great question. Yeah, so in the short version, I very, very much, from a very young child, knew that I was incredibly intuitive. And for 45 years of my life, I hid it. I masked it. I wanted to blend in rather than stand out. So it was very much not really something that you talked about or spoke about. And I was very much in my people-pleasing days. So everything was overriding everything that I was doing. So it's always been in my life, but only when I had my massive aha moment back in 2019 did everything kind of change, and then I set my business up, and then the rest is where we are and how I've got to today on multiple different levels. So 2019, I found myself with two teenagers thinking about how life was going to change. You know, it was another chapter in my life as a mom, another chapter in my life as what I might do for work. And an opportunity came along that was really full of fun. And it was all about running, actually, which is what some of my medals are about. And it was to be a run leader for a local women's charity. And I remember thinking, hey, this sounds really good because it's going to be something that I'm just going to do for me, that I'm just going to go out that feels quite lighthearted. It brings in a bit of the sport element that I love to do. And it just had a real fun feel. And it was in that moment that my energy thought, hey, do you know what? Let's sideswipe her a little and let's really bring her back into who she really is. And if you'd like me to expand on what happened, I can on that day, but that's pretty much where everything came out.
Yes, of course, because I'm curious now. You can't just not tell me. So what
I know,
was it?
That was like leaving you hanging then. So I had a real strong intuitive knowing. That's the best way I can describe it. I absolutely knew that this day was going to change my life. And what happened was I was getting myself ready to go to this, it was like an open evening for people if they wanted to be a run leader volunteer. And I was getting myself ready and I took about 3, 4, 5 different outfits and kept changing. Should I wear a dress? Should I wear my PE kit? Should I wear jeans? Should I go really casual? I really didn't have a clue because I hadn't been to something like this that was just for me for years. And in that moment, I can remember looking in the mirror and thinking, this isn't who you are. You're the person who pretty much knows who you are right from the start. So what's happened? You've kind of lost your way a little bit on the old identity front. And that's where the energy said, let's come back and really show you what you're made of. So I remember walking to the event thinking, this is going to be really transformational. I'm not quite sure why. And I got there and there were all these women, about 7 or 8 women. They were all absolutely exuding fun, laughter and connection to their bodies. And they were like really just like loving life and really excited about the creation of what they brought to the town. And none of them were in their like run kit. None of them had taken it seriously like me. And it's like, oh, hang on. And I got in and I said, I think I've overdressed. And she said, well, did you think I was going to ask you to run? And I said, well, you might have done. And she went, no, it's all about, empowerment. It's about letting people choose their own limits. And it was just so, so freeing. So I got there. It was so lighthearted. And I walked back and I said to my husband, everything changes now. He said, what do you mean? I said, everything changes. I'm going to leave my job. I'm going to retrain. I'm going to allow myself to be in a space where I actually empower anyone to do what they want in life and not squash any part of their whole being. So that changed everything.
Wow. That's a big change. He probably was like, what? What happened? Give me a minute. Catch me up. So
it was very much like that.
Wow, that's so cool. And so you started that change process in that moment. And I think that's so fascinating when change hits us, because sometimes it's these little moments that are coming up. And sometimes it's that one big moment that all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay. It's like the blinders come off. I've seen something that I cannot unsee now. And this big room has opened to me of what's available now. And I can't just sit outside the door and not access these things or move into these things.
Exactly that. And this is what I talk with people about on lots of levels. And I'd like your listeners to just tune into themselves a minute. It doesn't have to be one big aha moment. For me, I was very fortunate that it was I already had a really great life, and it was something that took me on to an even greater life. Sometimes what happens with people is, something really happens in their life where they're like, it's I call it like a one-stop shop where they're like, that's it, no more. And it's usually something that's a bit negative. So always think in your life that sometimes it can be a positive experience and you're going to get more and it's going to get better, rather than it has to be like, why did I wait till actually I felt like this before I made some changes? The smaller incremental pieces are always nudges along the way that you might not have picked up on. And if your body doesn't listen, or if you're not aware of them, then you're just going to get one big wake-up call.
Yes, and sometimes that can be really fun, and sometimes that can be really painful. And I do prefer the fun ones, but I have heard and listened to the painful ones as well. And they've helped me, I think, understand a lot about both sides of that when people do get into a situation that they feel like they can't get out of, or they don't know how they ended up in, or something like that. And since we're talking about energetic alignment, to shift that energy and start moving it again, we have to do that. We have to put that in motion. And it's so funny because I often hear people say, well, I'm waiting for a sign, or I'm waiting for something from the universe to show me the direction or to show me the way. And I tell them, well, the universe is sitting on that couch right next to you, waiting for you to take that next step. Because as soon as you do, it's going to be in motion with you, but it's going to sit and wait for you as well. And that's up to you.
Exactly. And there's always an element of feeling fearful when you're about to make any sort of change. And I really do invite people to sit with this. If you know that you're here for more, whatever that more is for you, whether it's to change your job, whether it's to write a book, whether it's to do something really physical, whatever it is, if you know that that's part of your plan, something that you really deeply desire, you will have this piece where you're sitting on the sofa, like you say, and you've got to make a decision. And what I always couple that decision with people is you've got to couple it with courage. You've got to be brave, because as you change into a different identity and make a change in your life, some people will like it, some people won't. Some things that it's not, and when I say courage, people don't necessarily like courage because it doesn't make you feel so great. So I always say you've got to couple your courage with commitment. You've got to be committed. Otherwise, you're not going to do it. So you've got to marry those two, courage and commitment, together and really stand strong in them. And then you just go all in.
That's so true. That's so true. And there is always that, and I know you'll understand this a little bit, but our subconscious is there and it's kind of trying to keep us on the track that it knows best. And so we do have those fear moments that you mentioned come in, and sometimes even big irrational. I call them pool sharks, because when I was a kid, I was raised in the Jaws era. And so I was afraid of sharks in the pool. That's not rational. That's not but my body felt that fear. And so it was a real fear for me in that time. And I think sometimes we try to sidetrack that, but when our body is registering something, we need to kind of acknowledge that and go, okay, I get it. I understand, but we're going to move beyond that. How do you help people do that? How do you help people kind of commit and bring that courage and commitment together?
So it's exactly like you say, there's this mind-body connection that people don't always feel or allow themselves to feel. So the mind is going, hey, yeah, I'm totally in. This feels great. I'm all excited. Bring it on. And the body is going, hang on a minute. I'm sweating. I'm going to faint. I've got to run to the loo. And all of those very sensory feelings when you feel really scared or really excited, that adrenaline that's pumping around your body. And when you believe what your body's saying to you like that, it's very hard to make the steps. So I always say to people, okay, before you full on commit, you have to get your body on board. Your body has to be absolutely hell yes, like your mind is. They have to be in sync. And to be able to do that, it's about really reprogramming your mind to go, I'm safe to make these change, and reprogramming your nervous system to say that it is safe for you to make this change. So much of it is around safety, first of all, and then around, the change feeling good. And that happens around mindfulness, around breath work, around lots of different ways that people can do that. But it's very much bringing people back into the here and now, getting them out of their head, dropping into their body, being very present in the moment and tuning into what it feels like when we talk about whatever their leap is, whatever the next step is. And if they're feeling it in their sacral, if they're feeling it in their shoulders, relax yourself. And what's it really saying? Is it saying that it actually is time for you to do it and it's okay for you to do it? And once people start working with their breath or some of the different ways that they can regulate themselves, they'll soon realize actually that they might have been in fight or flight all their life. And part of this is about regulating nervous system to get them to go, hey, do you know what? It's all right for you to feel good. It's okay for you to feel good every single day. And when you feel good every single day, do you know what? Magic happens and you can open up to a rapid expansion of all sorts of things. But it's okay to give yourself permission to feel good because we're programmed for struggle.
Wow, we're programmed for struggle. That's an interesting comment right there. And I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah, I guess I see that a little bit as the human experience, kind of coming into the human experience and living in all of I often say, life's a roller coaster and you're going to experience everything. You're going to experience the difficult, the anxiety, the frustration, the anger, but you're never meant to stay in it. You're always meant to move beyond it and have the fun and have the enjoyment, but you are still going to experience those things because we are human. Apparently we are programmed for struggle. What a great way to put it. And when you allow that and that awareness of that, do you think that changes how people move forward when they come into the awareness of that?
For certain, because so many high achievers or people who really want to make an impact or have a legacy or are driven by success in a human way. Once I start to allow them to think, you know what, actually you're going to get even more successful and feel even greater and impact more people when you step into this easeful flow and alignment. They're like, what? How does that even work? Once they get into it and they understand it and they realize that actually that's like one of the greatest gifts that they can have, then yeah, their inner self expands and that's where the magic happens.
And so with that, with kind of the energetic alignment of body and mind coming in and the literal energy that we are in and in our world and in all of that. I'm gonna bring. I list here. You have a podcast as well, and is it Beyond Money? Beyond Money? There was an episode on it that I thought was pretty fun, and you talked about intuition, and you talked about how you had some of this, and at one point you listened to all these great people, and all the ones that I'm familiar to, Abraham Hicks and Bob Proctor, and you said, I think it was Bob Proctor that you listened to, and it was for 30 days straight. It's like, listen to this, and that it changed things for you. Do you think that you can go in, regardless of where your body's at, with the mind, and start the process there and kind of bring your body along? Or do you think you kind of have to have both on board? Like you said, you kind of have to have your body on board to say yes. But if your body's struggling, can you start with the mind like you kind of did there and catch it up and bring it in?
Yeah, so I always say there's 3 parts, and you've always got to start with your belief. So you have to start with your mind, and you have to get delusional. You have to start believing what you don't yet believe. So I started listening to Bob Proctor, and it's fabulous. It's very well recognized, like meditation he has on abundance. And I listened to it the first sort of 7 days. I was like, what? It's not. And then because I am very much a high performer and I struggle to sit still, I was like, oh, this is a waste of time. And but I'm very, very committed when I make a decision. So like he says 30 days, I'm going to do 30 days. And then once there's a turning point that you're listening, you're like, actually, do you know what? This could be actually working now. And so your mind starts to get on board, and it starts to believe the things that he's saying in that meditation, whatever it is. Really, it's all about abundance and being in an overflowing life. So why are you limiting yourself in whatever it is? So you start changing your beliefs. Do you know what? There's an abundance of everything. So I'm just going to show up because there's abundance in everything. And what happens then, you start to realize, so you get your beliefs aligned, and then your nervous system and your body is like, okay, I'm going to catch up now, because you actually believe it and you feel safe in it. So your nervous system starts to realize, actually, this feels quite regulated. It feels quite grounded. It feels quite good. And then when you've got your mind and body on aligned, then you're like, okay, now I'm really going to bring the energy. So now I'm really going to bring the potency. I'm really going to bring the emotion. I'm really going to bring the flow. I'm really going to shift it up a gear, or 10 or 20, which is where I take people.
So when you had that moment when you went to that thing, and then you changed your life, and I'm sure I've got to guess at least that there were moments where you were thinking, oh my goodness, what did I do? What am I doing? What was I thinking? How did you, if you had those moments, how did you kind of move beyond those? Did you just stay the course, or was there a particular thing that you needed to do within you to get beyond that hurdle?
So from that run meeting, 2nd of April, by 4th of April, I'd signed up to a whole clinical hypnotherapy, transformational coach training and everything like that, a 6-month program to qualify. And I set my business up in October that year. And I went all in. So I set it up. Within 3 weeks, I was fully booked. I was running it alongside my day job, which was part-time. I suddenly was working all the hours. And I made a decision that actually I'm going to go all in on it. I'm going to ditch the day job because I'm now too busy, and I'm just going to stay in this space. And it was only when I went fully in that then did all of my, let's call it my own healing, came out, because it's like, oh, okay. Now it's about working through why you made that jump, what's going on with you, because nothing will change your perspective more than being an entrepreneur, because suddenly you're the leader and you're suddenly there and you're like, oh my God, I've got to learn all these things in all these ways. And you're like, what? And then it's really all of the things that you're unlearning about your life. So the first thing that I did in that space for certain was get myself my own coach that worked with me around. I'd worked for many, many years in mental health, and there was a lot of stuff that I had to heal within myself about some of those situations that I were in were pretty stressful. My nervous system was very much running the show. So that I went through that, and I can remember my coach saying to me, do you realize how much you've held within yourself just in the kind of jobs that you've done? And I was like, not really, because that's just me. And I was still sort of not really listening to it. I was like, and then it kind of like hit me and goes, oh, okay, yeah, this piece has to be worked through and be able to be navigated to go to the next step. So I kind of had my freak out moment, got the support, healed the pieces of me that were still from my various positions that I was still holding on to. Once they went, I then absolutely flew.
Isn't that fascinating? I think that so many people have that moment of, well, that's just me. That's just my life. That was just, and yet it does need a little bit of healing, or it does need a little bit of more understanding than what it's like, oh yeah, that's just what that was. Meh. But it is probably something that's anchored into us that we need to kind of take that hook out so that we can move forward, so that we can be in a space. I find that so fascinating with people when they're telling me these sometimes really difficult things that they've experienced in life, and they're just like, oh, well, yeah, this happened or that. And I'm going, oh my goodness. Okay. And that's just life. That's just life for them. So that's so interesting to me.
It's interesting because, and some of your listeners might have this thread, if you feel like you were perceived as being the strong one, so a lot of high achievers have this, oh, I'm just a strong one, I'm the one that's I'm okay Jack type of thing. It's those people, and there's many people that like that, whether they admit it or not, that this facade that somehow actually the strong one isn't allowed to, have all the other feelings. That's kind of the message that the journey that I went through. I was like, okay, you don't have to hold it all to be able to have it all.
Boy, that's so true. Yes, I agree with that completely, because there's when you are the strong one, quote unquote, and it's like, well, who would I even talk to about that? Or no, I can't do that because that person, is going through this, or I can't talk to that person because that wouldn't be the right energy to talk with that person. It's just there. It's like, well, I'm good. I'll be okay. And you keep going when actually, no, you really do need to let some of that go and not hold on to it. I agree with that. That's so true. And you're right. So many people, I think, would identify with that, whether they say it out loud or not. They would, if they think about it, they're the ones that think, oh, I would love to talk to somebody about that, or who could I say that to? But then they don't go to anyone. They just keep it. So, good point. Very good point. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for being here, for chatting with me, for opening the doors to sharing how things changed in your life and the processes of how you move through those. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for chatting with me today. And I'm going to have everything in the show notes, but I'd love for you to tell people how they can connect with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved chatting with you on all of the things that we've covered today. People can learn more about me. I am on Instagram I am Charlotte Carter. Follow me on there. Send me a DM if anything's resonated, or if you want to find out more about how you can work with me, my company is called I Dare to Leap. So my website is simply www.idaretoleap.com. Either way, reach out, see what resonates, and let's have a conversation if you feel called to.
I think that's great. I dare to leap. That's a wonderful thing right there. So that can be a scary thing. And sometimes you need someone to do that with you, to leap with you and know that you're safe. So that's a great thing that you do for people. All right. Thank you so much for the Change Gang. I hope that you have a great day, and I hope that you meet me same time right here next week. Ciao. I hope today's episode was interesting to you in some way and fun. If so, hey, find someone to share it with. Maybe they need to hear it too, or maybe they'll just enjoy it. If you'd like, go ahead and grab my tips on supercharging your success. It includes a free short meditation to do just that. You can find that at bit.ly/supercharge your success. Until next time, happy day.